More than 80 years have elapsed since the end of World War II. But because of certain exemptions, many documents have only become declassified in the last few years, revealing new, sometimes startling, sometimes conflicting information. The challenge is to determine the truth. Hello, I'm Linda Shenton-Matchett, author, speaker, and history geek. During the research for my books, I unearthed tons of intriguing historical information that does not end up in my stories. So I've created this channel to share those tidbits with you.
Spies. Hear the word and think glamour and excitement. Add danger and fear, and you'll be closer to what really means to be a secret agent. Swedish-born actress Greta Garbo rarely revealed her opinion about the war while it was happening, or in later years. She also didn't use her fame to directly support the war effort like so many Hollywood stars did on USO or Bond-selling tours or appearances at stage canteen locations. Nor did she serve in the uniformed services like B. Arthur or in support organizations such as the Red Cross like Myrna Loy. As a result, she was often criticized by what was perceived as a lack of involvement or care. However, it is possible nothing could be further from the truth. Greta started her acting career in her native Sweden, getting her first role in 1924 in the film The Saga of Gösta Berling. Always on the lookout for new talent, Louis B. Mayer of MGM Studios saw her performance and brought her to Hollywood the following year. By 1926, she was an international star. She successfully made the transition from silent movies to talkies, and she received an Academy Award nomination for the 1930 film Anna Christie. She also received a New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Actress for the 1935 film Anna Krenina. The following year, her role as the courtesan Marguerite Gautier garnered her another Academy Award nomination. Twice in her career, Greta played the role of a spy, the first time in 1928 when she appeared as a Russian spy charged with stealing secrets from the Austrians, and again in 1931 when she played Mata Hari, perhaps the most famous female spy. But was Greta a real spy? Former Swedish diplomat Leif Leifland stated on more than one occasion that Greta and fellow Swedish actress Ingrid Bergman were anxious to show their sympathy with the Allied forces. Garbo wasn't a spy, but she cooperated with the Allied effort. America was her second home. I don't find it surprising that Greta Garbo was anxious to prove her allegiance. Years later, in an interview, art curator Sam Green reported that Greta had said during a dinner party, "Mr. Hitler was big on me. He kept writing and inviting me to come to Germany, and if the war hadn't started when it did, I would have gone, and I would have taken a gun out of my purse and shot him, because I'm the only person who would not have been searched." Was this, as Leifland stated, an effort to prove her allegiance, or something more? William Stevenson, codenamed Intrepid, a Canadian soldier, fighter pilot, and spy master who coordinated activities between the British Secret Service and America's Office of Strategic Services, was known to use entertainment industry figures as covers, and Charles Higgin, author of several books on wartime espionage, attests that Greta worked for Stevenson when she was asked to, quote-unquote, keep an eye on Swedish entrepreneur Axel Wenner-Gren, one of the wealthiest men in the world at this time and reportedly a friend of Hermann Göring. According to one source, a letter from Greta to a friend ostensibly included references to Gren. Years later, in Leifland's book that sought to exonerate the entrepreneur, various documents are listed that are believed to prove Greta had been used as an agent to get inside information about the man. Greta herself maintained that her contacts were superficial. Stevenson is quoted as having said, As a member of the Stevenson Churchill group, Garbo provided introduction and carried messages. But what kind of messages? Another source indicated she identified high-level Nazi collaborators in Sweden, as well as acted as a liaison between the Allies, sympathetic Swedish industrialists, and the royal family, such as when she reportedly served as a go-between for the British with shipping magnate Axel Johnson and members of the Swedish royal family. She is also credited with helping obtain the release of physicist Niels Bohr from occupied Denmark to Sweden, and later to America, where he worked on the Manhattan Project. So what claims are true? Will we ever know? Unlike Greta Garbo, our second star is known to have been a spy. Another spy whose fame allowed her to be ignored by the authorities because they doubted she would risk her career in such a manner. Little did they realize. Born in 1906, Josephine Baker got into show business when she was 15, joining an all-black musical on Broadway. Treated with disdain and discrimination, she tried out for and obtained a role in the La Revue Negre that sent her to Paris, France. While in Paris, she moved into burlesque, where she performed risque dance routines during which, according to one source, she was attired in little more than a string of pearls and a rubber banana skirt. She added singing to her repertoire and eventually transitioned into acting in films, where she became Europe's highest-paid entertainer. In 1939, she was recruited by French intelligence agent Jacques Abbe, and it wasn't a hard sell. After being affected by Jim Crow laws in the U.S. and hearing shouts of "Go back to Africa" during some of her European performances, Josephine knew what life under a Nazi regime would bring. Therefore, she would do whatever she could to prevent its spread. She agreed to spy, saying, "The Parisians gave me their hearts, and I am ready to give them my life." She got her start attending diplomatic parties at the Italian and Japanese embassies, where she gathered intelligence about the Axis powers possibly joining the war. When the Germans approached Paris, she moved to the south of France, where she housed resistance fighters at her chateau and provided visas. Eventually, according to one source, the Nazis had gotten wind of the resistance activity happening at her home and visited the estate. She had been hiding several resistance fighters at the time of the visit, and she managed to successfully charm the Nazis when they questioned her. But she took the close encounter as a sign that it was time to leave France. After contacting General de Gaulle, she was told to travel to London via neutral Lisbon, bringing more than 50 classified documents and other secret intelligence. By early 1941, she regularly traveled for the French Secret Service to places such as Lisbon, Madrid, Seville, and Barcelona. On one such trip, the French security chief posed as her secretary and was barely noticed by German officials. She journeyed through South America and to North Africa, giving concerts and attending receptions and parties, where she gathered secret information that she passed to Allied agents. She is reported to have carried messages pinned to her undergarments because, as she said, who would dare search Josephine Baker to the skin? She also commented that when she was asked for papers, it was generally for autographs, not identification. While in Spain and Portugal, she was able to collect details about Axis troop movements. On her trip to Morocco in 1941, she carried 28 pieces of luggage and a collection of pet monkeys, mice, and a Great Dane. Apparently, the more conspicuous her travel, the less suspicions were aroused. After arriving in Casablanca, she set up a liaison and transmission center. In North Africa, she worked with the French resistance and used her connections to obtain passports for fleeing Jews. Even when hospitalized for an 18-month period beginning in late 1941, she collected information from diplomats and resistance members who visited. After being discharged, Josephine toured Allied military camps from Algiers to Jerusalem. French documents declassified in 2020 outlined her work with the British Secret Service as well as the U.S. Office Strategic Services. While in Paris, that included notes being written in invisible ink on her sheet music and passed to MI6 in London. After Paris was liberated, Josephine returned to the city in October of 1944 wearing her blue Air Auxiliary Lieutenant's uniform and riding in an open car while crowds tossed flowers to her. After the war, de Gaulle awarded her the Croix de Guerre, the Rosette de la Résistance, and named her Chevalier de Légion d'Honneur, the highest order of merit for military and civil action. Our last star, a boy from Brooklyn, served on the front lines. Born Melvin James Kaminsky, Mel Brooks was one of 4 boys born to Max Kaminsky, a German Jew from Danzig, now Gdansk, Poland, and Katie, a Russian Jewish immigrant from Kiev. Life was difficult. His father passed away from tuberculosis when Mel was 2, and as a small, sickly boy, Mel was often bullied and teased. Then, in his senior year of high school, he was recruited to take an Army IQ test on which he received high scores. As a result, he was sent to the Army Specialist Training Program at the Virginia Military Institute, where he was to be taught electrical engineering, horse riding, and saber fighting. Quite an interesting combination. After turning 18 3 months later, he officially joined the Army and was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey, for basic and radio operation training. Assigned to France in November 1944, Mel was transferred as a combat engineer to the 104 Engineer Combat Battalion and sent to Belgium, where he participated in the Battle of the Bulge. His assignment was to move to the forward edge of the battle and clear German landmines so the Allied troops could advance. According to more than one source, his unit had to fight as infantry on 5 separate occasions, which resulted in casualties. He would later say, "Along the roadside, you'd see bodies wrapped up in the mattress covers and stacked in a ditch, and those would be Americans. That could be me. I sang all the time. I never wanted to think about it. Death is the enemy of everyone, and even though you hate Nazis, death is more of an enemy than a German soldier." The unit made it into Germany, where they were the first to construct a bridge over the Ruhr River, then later a bridge over the Rhine. They were stationed in Saarbrücken and Baumholder, where they cleared booby-trapped buildings and defused landmines. Mel's job was to find the mines, and a specialist would defuse them. One day, when the unit could hear the Germans singing over loudspeakers, he rummaged up a bullhorn and responded by singing Jewish-American singer Al Jolson's hit song, "Toot Toot Tootsie Goodbye." In April, his unit moved to the Harz Mountains, where they performed reconnaissance. When the war ended, Mel joined the Special Services as a comic and toured Army bases, then was put in charge of entertainment at Wiesbaden. When asked by Mike Wallace during a 60 Minutes interview how one could get even with a man who put Jews in a concentration camp, Mel said, "Because if you stand on a soapbox and you match him with rhetoric, you're just as bad as he is. But if you can make people laugh at him, then you're one up on him." Mel was honorably discharged in 1946 and would go on to entertain generations of Americans and use his experience to make the world laugh at Hitler and the Nazis.
Are you intrigued by the brave individuals who served during World War II? Check out my fictional series, The Resistance Chronicles, inspired by real people and real events. Check the details below for ordering information. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.